And we are back. So as we were discussing before the break, foreign direct investments are driving the growth of emerging markets. However, do keep in mind that we nowadays have what we recognize as transition economies. Economies that were used to receiving investments, now going and making investments back into those markets that were once investing in them. One of the best examples we have for this is China. China, they say, is on a shopping spree from mines of iron ore in Australia and right up to oil fields in Iraq. This is what we call transition economies. Even if you look at some of the companies that you would have in China, Geely, for example, the automobile manufacturer, little known in many cases, but they have bought over, and they are, in fact, the parent company now of Geely. They are the parent company of Volvo, the Swedish car company known for safety. So Geely, in fact, bought over Volvo. And there are many more such examples. Tata Group of India buying over Jaguar, Land Rover, and even the Taj Hotels Group buying over some hotels of Ritz-Carlton in the Boston area in US. So this is the transition economies that we are looking at today. India, China are all examples for such transition economies. Now, in a globalized business environment, do keep in mind you're working across borders. You'll have partnerships with suppliers, customers, and many more entities across different countries. If you take a look at some of the flags you would be seeing on the screen right now behind me, Brazil, in fact, Brazil is a part of the BRIC economies. BRIC economies are the top 4 economies of emerging markets: Brazil, Russia, India, China. These are the top 4 economies in the world in terms of emerging market economies. And it is believed that by 2025, about 40% of the global GDP would in fact be coming from these top economies. Think about Brazil. Now, when you're working in a country, or when you're working with people and partners in a country like Brazil, you need to adjust. It's an adjust or perish situation. For example, there are different customs in these countries. If you go to Brazil for a business meeting, do not expect them to come on time for the meeting, and do not get into talking about business matters straight away. Even if they have about 30 minutes left, do excuse them, but that's the culture. Also, no sooner they come in, they might be talking about the football game that was there last night and how they were victorious, or they may be even grooving over their defeat. This is the Brazilian culture. Take, for example, Japan. In a Japanese cultural environment, if you go for a business meeting, you are expected to give a gift at the end of it to the other business party from Japan. These are accepted cultures. These are accepted cultural customs in these countries. So before you do business in a globalized business environment, you need to do your homework properly. Hofstede model is a model that helps business community understand cultural differences. According to the Hofstede model, there are 5 key areas based on which cultures differ. Power distance, based on the power gap that they would ideally tolerate between levels. Then we also have the concept of feminism versus masculinity, whether they help the weak or whether they actually only support the strong. Another area what we have is term orientation or Confucian dynamism. In other words, can we predict the behavior of a person based on the job role? And also, are they far thinking or are they more thinking on the short-term scenarios? Another key area of the Hofstede model that business community needs to understand is the concept of organizations having to face with the masculinity and feminism. Masculinity and feminism, like I said, is whether you tolerate the weak or whether you only support the strong. So these are some of the key areas. I mentioned top 3 areas of the Hofstede model. So these are the main aspects that you need to be looking at. In a globalized business environment, do make sure that you do your corporate governance and your social responsibility in the proper way. Corporate social responsibility is a concept that says do good as a business. And it is believed that when you do good as a business, consumers definitely will do good to you. If you take Puma, for example, Puma focuses heavily on CSR through their Puma Focus, through their Puma Safety, Puma Peace, and Puma Safe. Puma Peace supports global peace initiatives Puma safety is about focusing on helping environmental friendliness and about doing good to the environment. For example, if you look at this pair of shoes that is appearing on the screen, it's called the Puma Residue, entirely made from waste material, and it's all recycled material that is used for this particular shoe. And we say that Puma also has another focus on Puma Creative, where they help upcoming artists to improve and launch their careers. And under CSR, corporate social responsibility, do keep in mind to focus on the Pele effects, philanthropic contributions, contribution to economic development, legal contributions, and also ethical contributions. Be ethical, be in line with the law, provide charities with whatever donations you could make, and help your suppliers and help your employees' communities to develop further. So these are the Pele focus of CSR. Corporate governance, as we know, is the focus of where you do right by the shareholders. You should not try and cheat the funds. You should not get involved in frauds. Do what is right. Hewlett-Packard, for example, had to fire their CEO, Mark Hurd, when they found that, in fact, Mark Hurd had authorized some financially fraudulent payments due to a scandalous affair he had with a particular sales representative. So these are all concepts of corporate governance. And finally, in a global business environment, doing business in a new country can be lethal, as we say. Country and political risk analysis, therefore, should be done in detail. We know about certain issues that have come up in Argentina due to violence, craft factories getting attacked, and even in Bangkok due to the red shirt protest of the opposition, the Millennium Hilton Hotel in Bangkok facing millions of dollars over that time period. So these are some of the perfect examples that we have in terms of country and political risk realizing. Three things that you need to focus on here. Number one, sources. From where do these risks come? For example, it could be the political philosophy of Robert Mugabe or Hugo Chavez of Venezuela. It could be the rising nationalism of a certain country. It could be an armed conflict. Who are the groups creating this? Could be the political leaders, could be the opposition, or it could even be pressure groups or terrorist groups. And also the effects. Definitely one key effect is loss of profits. Another effect that you would have is probably you might end up having financial penalties to be paid. Your entire business operations may be handed over to local parties through what we identify as expropriation of assets and indigenization. All these are effects that you may have to face. And the ideal solution, if you are to overcome this, is what we call corporate political activity. In other words, getting involved in the policy setting process, linking up closely with them so that you could have a strong rapport and a benefit for your side. We move into operations management. That's another area that entirely focuses on you to understand mostly how manufacturing environments and service environments work. Giorgio Armani, the famous designer, once said, if you want to create something truly exceptional, make sure that you focus on the tiny things. In an organization, that function that focuses on the tiny things is basically operations management. That looks into all the physical activities. Talking on operations management, some of the key topics are value chain, supply chain. Value chain is all the activities that converts inputs to an organization to outputs. I'm sure these pictures of this packet of French fries is something you would have enjoyed for many times. How does this actually work? They obtain the required potatoes for it and the oil for it, inbound logistics, do the operations on it, the processing, they create the French fries, and then outbound logistics where they put it onto the shelves. Further, they need to market this. I'm in no way marketing this here, I'm just taking it an example, although it is a true favorite of mine. You need to market this, and also you have to make sure that you provide any after sales issues. It's unlikely in the case of a packet of French fries, but although for something like a TV, you might have to provide after sales. But to support this, you have another key set of functions. We have procurement that looks into entering into deals with suppliers. You would also have HR, making sure you have the right people, technology development, making sure you have the right technology, and also proper planning and infrastructure, mainly for management infrastructure for the planning activities. So these activities support the top 5 primary activities which we identified. And further, value chains combined with other value chains form what we recognize as a supply chain. What we mean by is No organization's value chain today will be successful alone if they go to work. Their value chains are combined with others. Take, for example, Selfridges. They have the largest shoe shop or the shoe retail shop in London, spanning over 35,000 feet, and also at a given time they would have about 5,000 different models on display. Now, they would be supplied by Armani, Louboutin, and Chanel, and all these top brands with their shoes. Just imagine if Armani delays the delivery of their shoes to Selfridges, what would happen? That means when Armani's outbound logistics are delayed, invariably, since its input to Selfridges, Selfridges' inbound logistics would get delayed, their processes would get delayed, as a result, their outbound logistics would get delayed. This is the situation we face today. Organizations do not run alone, they do not compete alone. How they work is, their value chains are combined with their suppliers and customers' value chains, and they all work together. They are all in the market facing the competition together. To make a supply chain effective, we say there are 3 R's: reliability, relationships, and responsiveness. For example, you think of a racing team, Formula 1 racing team such as Red Bull. They always face an ever-changing environment. Always things are changing, new rules coming up, new requirements coming up. Their suppliers who supply the different material for their vehicles have to be responsive. When a request is made, they should be spontaneous to it. Further, there should be strong relationships. Their IT systems, Red Bull racing team's IT systems and their suppliers' IT systems need to be linked strongly. We shall continue this after the break.